In 2020, at the peak of the pandemic, Dallas-Fort Worth briefly became the busiest airport in the world. American Airlines made the decision to consolidate flying into its largest domestic heavy hub, not only due to a quicker post-COVID opening, but because of what the airport could enable. Here, the ample runway capacity let it handle more aircraft movements than any other. 5 years later, DFW is undergoing a $9 billion program attempting to expand the airport's capabilities even further. They're building entirely new terminals, replacing old ones, and rethinking the layout and inner workings of the whole thing. The goal is to support 100 million plus passengers annually, with a hub that runs more reliably for airlines and feels easier for travelers. To check on progress and to get a look behind the scenes, I flew to the site for a second time this year. DFW opened in 1974 to consolidate North Texas air traffic into a single hub between Dallas and Fort Worth, both of which were booming in population at the time. Its defining geometry was a central loop feeding 4 semicircular terminals. A 2005 upgrade added a 5th terminal as well as the Skylink train, allowing connections to be inside security instead of curb to curb. At almost 27 square miles, it was the largest airport in the world at the time of construction. It has 7 runways, its own zip code, and a dedicated police and fire department. All traffic passes through the north and south entry toll plazas on International Parkway and creates a complex web of roadways through the terminals. DFW is widely regarded as operationally efficient. While the roadway network could be improved, the runway and terminal configuration, combined with convenient access, allow the airport to successfully handle nearly 90 million passengers annually. So why spend billions upgrading it, and what exactly is the plan? The centerpiece of this effort is a new, massive Terminal F. As early as 2005, when the Skylink was implemented, planners signaled a vision to complete what many consider the final horseshoe that gives the airport a balanced, finished appearance, although the original plan called for as many as 13 terminals. The new terminal is a nearly 400,000 square foot concourse, with 15 gates in Phase 1 and room for 31 in future phases. It'll have a new Skylink station, modern baggage systems, and a direct connection to Terminal D. For American, Terminal F concentrates banked departures adjacent to Terminal D's international functions, reducing time for walk and rail penalties inside a single cluster. F's incremental gates give American flexibility to retire or reassign older positions and to reshuffle some domestic flying out of E, making room for non-American Airlines carriers to add capacity, but more on this in a minute. Terminal F will look and feel much closer to Terminal D than to the older A and B style. It's designed to be DFW's signature terminal with tall daylighted volumes, wide concourses, double-loaded gates, and integrated retail and food. Unlike all the other terminals, the parking structure will sit between the International Parkway, something that sounds a bit surprising, but I guess makes sense. The program heavily uses off-site modular elements, a tactic DFW is scaling up for F. This considerably shortens airside erection windows and keeps more adjacent gates open. From being on site in June and again in October, the progress is pretty incredible. Much of the speed reflects the efficiencies of modular construction, but the project genuinely looks like it's coming together. The first 15 gates of this terminal are planned to be operational in 2027, and full build-out is expected around 2030 if the schedule holds. But Terminal F isn't the only one being worked on. Also in the plan is to rebuild Terminal C in phases, and to add a pier that delivers 9 gates. 5 of these are existing gates being rebuilt, while 4 of them are brand new. The project will add around 115,000 square feet of new usable space. The existing parking garage at C will be demolished and replaced with a new 6-level parking structure, adding 800,000 square feet of space. The design removes 400 plus site blocking columns, raises roof lines, installs dynamic glass, and reworks checkpoints and hold rooms. The benefit is capacity and operational clarity in DFW's busiest legacy concourse. Once all 3 phases of this are completed, 32 total gates will be new or completely rebuilt. Multiple megastructure modules were moved into place to keep more gates operational during the day, with the connections completed during night tie-ins. Similar to C, Terminal A receives a pier-style expansion of roughly 140,000 square feet, with 5 new gates and 5 rebuilt ones. Along with this comes new concessions, restrooms, and seating. For American, the C&A work refreshes core narrow-body gate inventory that feeds the airline's banks. But enough about the terminals, the next change is probably going to be something the average person notices and most likely appreciates much more. Part of the International Parkway is being completely rebuilt, converting every 1970s era left-hand exit into right-hand exits for Terminals A, B, and C. The new bridges and ramps bring driver geometry up to modern standards, add better signage and lighting, and separate arrivals from departures to reduce weaving. South of the terminal, DFW is rebuilding the east-west connector roadway, a 1.6-mile, 4-lane link between State Highway 360 and Rental Car Drive. It gives cargo, rental car, and employee traffic a new route that bypasses the central loop and doubles as emergency access. On the airfield, the airport is adding a third end-around taxiway. This lets aircraft taxi behind runway thresholds instead of crossing active runways, reducing incursion risk, avoiding stop and wait holds at intersections, saving a few minutes of taxi time during peaks, and keeping arrival-departure flows more predictable. In the cargo zone, the 19th Street redevelopment adds 350,000 square feet of warehouse space and 7 freighter parking stands, directly tied to the airport's goal of expanding e-commerce throughput. Underpinning all of this is the new zero-carbon electric central utility plant, which replaces the old steam system with hot water distribution powered by renewable electricity, cutting thermal water use by nearly 30% and hardening the airport's backbones for decades of growth. Finally, 2 new fire stations round out the package, placed for faster response on each side of the airfield. Okay, let's change topics and talk about where the money is being sourced from. DFW is paying for this with its own current or future money, not city or county taxes. They use airport revenue bonds that are repaid from airport income, from things like airline rents, landing fees, parking, and concessions. On top of this, they're using the $4.50 passenger facility charge that appears on every ticket and customer facility charges on rental cars. The May 2023 use and lease agreement pre-approved $4.8 to $4.9 billion for all the terminal and main roadway work. In May of 2025, DFW and American amended that plan to make the full Terminal F at $4 billion total and extended the airline agreement to 2043. Including everything, the broader DFW Forward program runs on the order of $9 billion. In 2024, DFW moved nearly 88 million passengers, making it the 3rd busiest airport in the world behind Atlanta and Dubai. The airport expects that number to climb to around 107 million by 2029. That's roughly a 23% increase in just 5 years, putting DFW on pace with Atlanta's current levels and well ahead of most international hubs. The Dallas-Fort Worth Metro is now the nation's 4th largest and added more than twice as many jobs over the past 5 years as the next highest metro. If the DFW Metro were its own country, it would have a greater GDP than all the countries listed below. While American will capture the bulk of this growth, it also creates opportunities for other carriers to expand their presence at the airport. Delta, United, and ultra-low-cost carriers like Frontier may pursue the vacated space in Terminal E, while international airlines could take advantage of potential gate openings in Terminal D. For the average traveler, that competition should eventually lead to lower fares, though fare pressures can lag years behind new gate additions. More immediately, you can expect a wider range of flight options, possibly to new destinations, but more likely with increased frequency to existing markets. I like to benchmark big builds against close comparables, so viewers have an idea of what to expect. The most similar project is probably Chicago O'Hare's ORD Next. It adds gates adjacent to the international core to tighten connections and lift throughput. But ORD isn't overhauling its terminal access roads the way DFW is, and Chicago's traffic growth is slower than Dallas-Fort Worth's, so maybe it's a helpful reference, but far from a perfect comparison. DFW's plan stands out because it pairs net new gates with rebuilt access roads and a modern utility spine. The result is tighter connections, more usable capacity, and less curbside and taxiway friction. If milestones hold, DFW enters the next decade ready for 100 million plus passengers, simpler transfers, steadier ops, and headroom for American and everyone else. At Buildcore, we're building America, one story at a time. We cover some of the most impressive and headline-grabbing projects and topics across this great country. And with your help, the channel has grown to over 50,000 subscribers and reached over 10 million people. With that being said, thank you, and I'll see you next time.